I've never seen anything like it before, and to attempt to hit the ball out of there is pure madness.
The winner of the gold medal and the champion golfer of the year is Cameron Smith.
This is the one that I've always wanted to win since I was a little kid. So it just feels pretty amazing to be able to get it done today.
It's amazing that it's my destiny to be the first Aussie to win. Just incredible.
Hello and welcome to episode 96 of the Playing from the Tips podcast, Golf Australia magazine's look ahead at the weird and wonderful world of professional golf, where our so-called experts preview and tip all the major events happening around the globe. Jimmy Emanuel is my name, and as the host of this weekly rabble, I do my best to direct traffic and focus as we cover off on the Challenger PGA Tour of Australasia, PGA Tour, DP World Tour, Asian Tour and TGL this week. Joining me in doing that is the bedrock of the program and the bedrock of the Jared Hitchcock Twitter fan club. That may be a niche reference, but that is because Rod Murray lives in niche. Rod, welcome.
That is a niche reference.
Yeah, it is.
Jared was at his best at times during this week. An excellent sort of sub-cult follow, Jared Hitchcock. Fully recommend. He and Ricky Bush keep you entertained during the week.
Absolutely. Next, we're only 3 shows into the year, so of course Adrian Logue has already skived off and disappeared from his duties, and his fan, of course, being his mother, who's the only person who ever positively tweets about Logue on this show.
Very true.
So we bring in the biggest of hitters to replace him, a man who has dreamt up an air-conditioned golf vest. Who else but owner of Angus and Graysco Golfing, Matt Burns. Matthew, welcome back.
Thank you. Good morning. I don't have my air vest on because the fans would be probably pretty noisy.
The fans would overpower the microphone.
Yeah.
Not good for a studio.
So
don't bring you a vest.
For outside use only. That's what I'd say.
Yeah.
It struck me this morning, Matt, when I knew you were coming in, that you must, for my benefit, get yourself a PA called Smithers.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you need.
Yeah.
We have Antonio right now.
Yeah, well, Antonio can change your name.
Yeah. I'll have a look.
Is there Smithers out there? Is Antonio married? If we can find her
that's probably not appropriate to talk about.
All right, moving on. Let's get stuck into things. Before we move into this week, a look at last and some highlights, lowlights, anything around the world.
The poor kid that maybe was at 12.
Yes.
On the hole at the stadium course.
William Mao, yeah.
Yeah. What was interesting about that, I thought, apart from watching a professional golfer amass 12 shots on a golf hole, which is kind of like watching a car crash in a car race, the PGA Tour just can't seem to get it right, can they? The European Tour have fun with that sort of stuff with their players all the time on social media, and it works.
Yep.
The PGA Tour posted it, and it just looked malicious.
It did. Yeah.
And you almost couldn't help but think to yourself, they wouldn't do that to Justin Thomas.
No.
And you don't get that feel from the DP World Tour. It's incredible the difference between the two. And that's what I found the most interesting about that, aside from watching a golf pro have 12 shots on a golf hole. Yeah, it really struck me. I don't know. I think I saw the tweet. I think that was a lot of the reaction to it, was it not? Was, why would you do this? And
well,
then,
it was just like an almost uncut, just him hitting shot after shot after shot.
Yeah,
it was not
no context or
not
not having into it. And they interviewed him about it the next day, but I don't know. They seem to miss consistently that World PGA Tour.
In a week where the European Tour had some of the biggest players do influencer training.
Some of the PGA Tour players.
Yeah, and produce some of the best golf content you'll see.
So it's not that the players won't do it.
No.
Which has always been the assumption on the PGA Tour. The players won't play like they do on the European Tour. It's not true. Colin Morikawa did a couple last year. Akshay Bhatia was in the one this week. So and that's a really important element in the modern golf. With TV just going down and down and down in importance and influence, all that social media stuff is crucial. And honestly, the DP World Tour just leave the PGA Tour behind in every way.
Yeah, I think that point I was going to make actually is like, man, that Dubai event is so much better than the Amex. And it's such an endearing product, which is like what you were talking about as well. Like, I know it's in Dubai and I know they're playing for a lot of money and whatever else, but the Amex feels cold and you've got to be a big sponsor to play in it, in the event, and not that fun. Whereas the Dubai event actually looks like, man, if I was there, it'd be great to go to that.
Yeah.
And all the players seem to have a really good... I think the DP World Tour as a product is so much nicer to watch
Agreed.
than the PGA Tour, you know, and because you can't count the majors because they're not a PGA Tour thing. It's
No, that's exactly
They're really fantastic.
Yeah.
Dubai did not have the debut of a professional golfer named Blades Brown, though.
No, they didn't, and they'll forever regret that. That's on them.
That's one of the
He
great
was
names of all
available
time.
for. There's a good name to come in one of the.
Yeah.
One of my favourites
Okay.
from over the years. Yes, I agree with you, Matt. And there's something about. Well, I don't like the desert swing this time of year. I've never enjoyed because the golf courses never look right to my golf in the desert. I've just never been a great fan of. But putting that aside, the PGA Tour feels like it's just a week in, week out trudge.
Yeah. Off the train, on the train, off the
Yeah, kind of. And at this time of year, not many big names. I think Morikawa's pulled out, has he, from Torrey Pines?
Next week, yeah.
As well. So, they just, I don't know. But I agree. And it's a shame in some ways that, because the quality of the golf is phenomenal on the DP World Tour, even when you haven't got those big names in the field like McIlroy and Hatton like you had this past week. The week to week.
It just doesn't seem like fun. Whereas the DP World Tour guys looks like they're having fun, like they're playing golf, but like it would be fun to just be there and hang out and
Yeah. Imagine it in the 90s.
Yeah.
Before social media and
That's
fucking
right.
cameras.
There was also some impressive golf. Tyrrell Hatton wins again, and I think everyone knows how good a player Tyrrell is. That's just impressive stuff. Rory had another good week in Dubai, as everyone would have expected. Dave Micheluzzi had a great week, so shout out to Mika.
Yeah, absolutely.
He didn't have his best one of the days and fought back hard. And top 10, he's a long way towards keeping his card again for the next season.
Fire early on Sunday. He was just absolutely striping it.
And of course, Tiger's team got pantsed in the TGL.
Yeah, well, and of course, the first week Tiger plays and misses a green, you start questioning the technology,
yeah.
which I may well be right. I mean, I do find it would be unlikely that Tiger misses greens by 20 yards with a wedge, that, even at his worst, I would think. But lots of interesting stuff for them. It'll be about how quickly they can respond to that sort of thing.
And prove the technology.
That's right. You can't say, we've got it now for the whole year. They've got to make some sort of adjustment, I think, because
any other business owner, if they're in Tiger's position, would have come out and said, yeah, that's my fault, but it's Tiger Woods, so,
yes,
he's not going to say I do that.
Yeah, who's his caddy in this context?
Yeah.
Who takes the blame for the thing falling over last year? And then I do think they've got something. They're different. I'm not sure it's my product, but it is definitely different, and that's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it succeeds or not. But
to wrap up last week's action, our place as the number one TGL tipping podcast globally continued with a win for Logan, his beloved LACC, while we recorded 3 top 10s. So we're at 5 wins and 3 top 10s for the year, which, Rod, I heard you telling a local coffee shop worker the other day, are unrivaled tipping results for a golf podcast that missed this year's Century tournament.
Yeah. Unrivaled.
Not another one.
That's crazy.
It's crazy, isn't it? It's hard to believe. Yeah,
that's why it's a bit hard to breathe in here. The air's a bit thinner.
Yeah,
very tight.
rarefied.
Yeah. And rarefied out. That's right.
On to this week, and after a week off, the run of Webex Players Series events continues on the Challenger PGA Tour of Australasia and WPGA Tour of Australasia. This week, beautiful Rosebud Country Club, the host, as men and women compete for one prize purse and trophy. Junior and all abilities players join the action on the weekend. It's a composite or composite, depending on how you like to say it, course at Rosebud, mostly the north course, but they use a couple of other little spots to make it long enough for the players to be there. 36-hole facility down on the morning.
What a luxury Jimmy has a member to be able to look at and go, yeah, we'll take a few from this course and a few from that course and we'll make this course. Wonderful stuff.
And it is genuinely one of the most underrated golf courses around Rosebud.
Beautiful area.
Yeah.
Well, look what it's surrounded by. That's the problem, isn't it? It's like being Woodlands or Commonwealth on the Sandbelt.
Correct. Yeah. There's nothing but sort of good golf down there, really. And it's a really good field again for a Player Series event. We had probably the best field we've seen in Perth a couple of weeks ago. We've now got another very good field. You got your regulars like Jake McLeod, say Phoenix Campbell, Corey Crawford, Cameron John, Brett Coletta comes back, Matt Griffin comes back, Kerry Mountcastle, Jordan Dool, who won the event in Perth the other day, is there, Jack Carter, Andrew Campbell, Anthony Quayle. And on the women's side, Ashley Lau, who won the Vic Open last year, Momoka Kabori, who's won quite a lot out in Australia and is also a Ladies European Tour player. She'll be joined out there by Kelsey Bennett, who's in the field this week as well, and Justice Bosio, who's one of the sort of rising stars, as well as LPGA Tour bound Cassie Porter. So, of all those people, who wins? I'm saying Anthony Quayle. Rod, who do you think gets the chocolate?
They're very democratic, these events, which makes it hard to kind of pick, and that's a good thing. We like that. Just listen to you run through those names there. Again, emphasise the importance of this stuff. We've heard of these guys now.
Yeah.
And they've been getting... And the quality of the golf is getting better as the thing goes on each season because the players are getting good stuff. I think this is a week for an old stager to sneak up and grab one. Mm-hmm. And I think that old stager will be Matt Griffin. I note that just last week he cashed a $282 check at the Pro-Am down at Torquay, I think it was.
Yep.
So with that inspiration, back in the big arena, Matt Griffin, he's been too quiet for too long. He's a good local player. Like to see Matt get up and get
Nice.
Well, Rod, I was in Torquay last week, and I drove past Rosebud 2 weeks ago, so I'm pretty locked.
You are
pretty locked
seeping
in
with local
So
knowledge here.
I've actually flown in and out of both the airports this year.
What do you mean?
Tullamarine and Avalon.
Avalon.
Collecting already.
Do you get a badge for that? Do you get a bag tag or something for that you can put?
My dad picked me up from the airport, and he's like, I never even didn't know it existed, you know. Anyway, if Ashley Lau decides to go the right way and she flies into Avalon, I think she's going to be a good chance because it's got a short commute. And I think maybe the girls' setup is a little bit different, and she's won at 13th Beach, which I've also played this year.
There you go.
Let's go with Ashley Lau.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's also some seniors in the field this week. Matt Goggin and Andre Stoltz teeing it up. And Peter Wilson, and I believe Peter Wilson's daughter is going to play as well. So first father-son daughter playing in the same event.
Wow.
Like
is she a professional?
I believe she might be turning pro or has
Right,
turned pro,
okay.
yeah.
Oh,
So,
fantastic.
Yeah. Next, we go to the United States, and the PGA Tour continues its West Coast swing amongst the devastation of the fires in parts of California, which is put a bit of a dampener on what they're doing there, but it's also kind of spluttering along with key players not teeing it up.
Yeah.
And they're at the Farmers Insurance Open at Torrey Pines this week. That's kind of one of the storied events on the PGA Tour, but without that elevated status, it kind of isn't. So
We're seeing the ramifications of the two-tier tour, aren't we?
we are. Yeah, it's an event that Tiger and Phil used to play every year, locals and everyone. A lot of these guys played there in the World Juniors that a lot of them have
Yeah,
won.
of course
and everything
itself.
like that.
It's a US Open
US
venue,
Open
obviously.
venue, and it's a good golf course, good public golf course. It's a bit,
We'll get emails. Jimmy.
yeah. Well, it's a good tournament venue.
It hosts big championships well,
That's
logistically,
right.
yes.
That's right. But in terms of the field, it's not quite the same. Even locals like Xander Schauffele, who's played, I think, 9 years in a row, not pegging it up. We mentioned Morikawa off the top. Jason Day and Aaron Baddeley, the only Australians. Hideki Matsuyama's the real sort of headliner. Ludwig Aubert, Shane Lowry, Sahith Theegala, defending champion Matthew Pavon. But outside of that, it's a bit of a regulation tour event. So who do we think gets the win here? Matt, we'll go to you first this time.
I think it's going to be pretty. It's a bit of a smash and crash golf course. I think if you drive it really well, it'll be a huge advantage. It'll be very hard not to pick Ludwig this week, Ludwig, whatever. And also, I think everyone needs to pay attention this week as to who plays well because they're playing there again next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, has that been announced? Has it?
It has. I believe it's very close to be. I don't know if it's officially as of yet, but I think that was pretty strong mail that they're going to.
Look, it makes sense if you're going to go ahead with the time. That's a tough
They're
decision.
already set up. Like it's
Yeah. For the
you don't blame them at all.
But if your genesis is there more value in saying, do you know what? Let's not do it this year.
It would be cool. Actually, they should just play it on the north course.
Yeah, I think.
Oh yeah.
The discussion was that they were going to go to Phoenix,
Arizona, weren't they? Phoenix,
and they're going to play there because the tournament stuff was all set up. They need the infrastructure kind of thing,
Yeah,
and so
absolutely. You don't just stage a PGA Tour event at your local golf club on Saturday.
it'll be interesting. But
Yeah.
staying in the one place makes sense. Players will enjoy that. They'll sort of
Well, clearly not.
well, not necessarily from a golf perspective,
No.
but not having to up sticks and move again. But
What responsibility is on the players, Jimmy? And this is a prime example of this. It's not a signature event. There's now signature events. In some ways, their hand is forced, I suppose. They can only play so much golf, and there's X number of signatures. But what responsibility do top players bear to perhaps just spread themselves a little more thinly from time to time?
probably more than they realise and probably more than they're asked to, I'd say.
There's a real sense of entitlement. It feels about
at the PGA
top-
Tour level,
top level.
it hasn't been such an issue in the past because they've all played their certain number of events, and then there's the smaller ones, and each one of them kind of had a favourite one of those. They go and play there, or they'd have a sponsorship
Did they
arrangement.
institute that rule? I think they did they not? You had to add an event that you hadn't played in the last 5 years.
a couple of years
at
ago
some
they
point,
added that,
which-
and you had to go and play one, and it sort of spread them around a little bit more. Not to too many complaints, I don't think, but I think they're starting to feel what other tours have felt for a long time, where there's smaller events and none of the big names go and play, and sponsors go, well, I don't know why we keep kicking in the money for that. So
there's got to be a sensible answer to it all. And now's the time to do it. We've had the big disruption. Now's the time to restructure world golf. If only the PGA Tour could see the sense in doing that. They're the ones who could allow that to happen, who could make it happen. It'd be great for everybody in the game, but you just don't see it being forthcoming at the moment. So
They are loosening their grip a little bit.
well, it's been loosened for them in many ways.
Yeah.
I think the PGA Tour generally was stunned. They were stunned by the international reaction to the formation of LIV. I think they expected that the world would get on board and say the PGA Tour is where all of our players go. That's the top tour. And I think they were quite surprised at the anti-US sentiment. And, they seem to have kind of receded rather than embraced that and said, well, what can we do to change it? This situation we've got at the moment is all this crazy golf for crazy amounts of money that, honestly, most people aren't that interested in, including a lot of the players.
Yep.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's not sustainable. Fix it.
Correct. Can we get a tip from you?
Yes. I was going to go with Ludwig Boer. He's the only one at the TGL so far who's actually looked like he can play golf, as far as I can tell. That first week, he hit his first shot to about 3 feet, and he's been on fire ever since. So I think that's a good tip. I'm going to go with Jason Day. Showed a lot last week, obviously. I think a 2-time winner here previously, Jimmy, and a perennial top 10 finisher. He's always been very comfortable and liked the place. The Jason Day comeback continues, and this would be another notch on that belt if he could get it done this week.
Very good. I'm going to go with Shane Lowry, who I think is set to play some really good golf this year and has been clearly working hard at his game. So also winning captain in the TGL. You can't underestimate.
You cannot underestimate the confidence boost of
That's a genuine intangible right there. Moving ahead onto the DP World Tour continues its Middle East swing, this time at the Ras Al Khaimah Championship. Rod, you're our resident Middle East expert. Over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm not, but it's kind of you to say so and make it my problem from now on.
That's right.
Well done. You've saved yourself a lot of problems there. The Al Hamra Golf Club in Ras Al Khaimah. This has been on the European Tour schedule for 3 years, this tournament. Was on the Challenge Tour before that, and it's hosted various kind of tournaments over the years. Course is what you'd sort of expect in this part of the world, being mostly for resort play. Big greens, shallowish bunkers, particularly on the first. Lots of water, but generally off to the side, so it really won't bother these players that much. They tend to have a field day. The scoring here is really good. Thorbjorn Olesen is the defending champ. He finished 27 under last year, and the first year of the tournament, 24 under won it. So players not having trouble finding birdies out there. Finishing hole here is probably the one to watch. Gets a lot of attention. It's a dramatic sort of par 5, but honestly, the water down the right, it's one of those holes that's a little bit offset. If you hit the ball at all left to right, this is a terrifying prospect. Now, it won't bother most of the players Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Sunday afternoon, when they're getting the checks ready in the clubhouse, players will start to notice that water down the right, and you might see quite a few balls off to the left, which will make for an interesting finish. Good, as I said before, good European Tour field. We underestimate the quality of the European Tour players, DP World Tour, I think. Now that their top 10 go off to the PGA Tour, and they've proved they can more than hold their own. They've been winning over there as well. So it's certainly a product worth watching. Likes of Daniel Hillier, who was very impressive again last week. Ryan Fox, Tom McKibben, Ewan Ferguson, Guido Migliozzi, and Olesen is obviously back, the defending champ. Strains in the field. Elvis, Micheluzzi, Scrivener. Tip. Tempted by Hillier.
Okay.
But going to go with Micheluzzi for the reasons we discussed earlier. He's a confidence player, had a brilliant Sunday to finish in Dubai, and he's the kind who can carry it over. And in a low-scoring event, Micheluzzi on a roll is the kind of player that you'd back. He'll just keep making birdies, one after the other. So go, Dave.
Matthew?
I'm going to go with Foxy. He played really well last week, didn't he?
Yep.
And against this kind of a field, he's playing really well without knowing too much more than that. I think that's a pretty solid tip.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Ryan Fox as well, who's won here before. So
there you are.
he looks in really good touch and is one of those players like Micheluzzi. Same thing. Make a lot of birdies, keep
Get
going.
started, absolutely. Am I imagining it, Jimmy, or is he looking a little more svelte this year,
he's looking
Ryan?
in pretty good nick, Ryan. Yeah.
There was a lot of Ryan Fox last year wandering around the world. He had surgery, I think, did he not? In the off-season, had something, so he's probably back in the gym. And he's a big unit.
There's a lot of Ryan Fox at all times.
You would not want to mess with Ryan Fox.
Imagine if they had the best stat in international rugby, pack weight.
Yes, pack weight of a scrum.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Very nice.
On we go to the Asian Tour's debut for this year, and this time it is the Smart Infinity Philippine Open. National Open that's always had a special spot for you, Rod, I know. So can we get some details about it?
You should say that. Let's start with Sponsor Watch. Smart Infinity are a phone company.
Yeah.
And good on them for coming on, because this tournament's been off the schedule for about the last 3 years, which is a shame because it's one of the oldest tournaments in Asia. 1913, the first time they played this.
Nice.
Now, keep in mind, the first 30 years or so, it looks a little bit like a club championship board at a country course, where you just see the same winner year after year after year. There's a bit of that going on here in the US. Norman von Nider won it twice, 38-39. And here's the name reference I was going to give you earlier, Jimmy. In 1940, this tournament was won by the incomparable Jug McSpaden. And I've always liked Jug McSpaden because it's not Jugs, which is what you'd expect.
Yeah.
Jug just gives it that little touch, doesn't it? That's nice. Good on you, Jug. I'm sure he's got
Is it
that.
short for something? People say, just call me Jug. It's fine.
I don't know. He's American, maybe.
Yeah,
who knows?
it'd have to be something like that. Yeah.
The origins of names in American families is just way too much to consider in one episode of the pod. Lots of good names on the trophy. Bruce Crampton, Frank Phillips. Peter Thompson won it in 1964 when he was already a 4-time Open champion. Can you imagine a 4-time Open winner turning up at what was then a Far East circuit golf tournament in February of 1964? So good work to him. It's been off the schedule since 2019, as I said. Played at the Masters course at Manila Southwards. It's a Jack Nicklaus 36-hole facility. Heavy emphasis in the club marking on the environmental work that they do, and I think that's a good thing, Jimmy, and it's a thing that golf doesn't do well enough.
Absolutely agree.
And we should be doing a lot more of that. They've won some Audubon Society awards, which are people hand out the Habitat for Birds and those kinds of things.
Oh, I love that, yeah.
And it's such an easy thing for golf to do.
Yes.
And it's the one thing that we should hit back with every single time. Well, there shouldn't be a golf course there. Well, if not a golf course, what? Well, just a park. Well, they're not as good for wildlife. We know that. We've had the research that says so. Anyway, moving on. This is of the 36 holes. This one's sort of the tournament course. It's a much more difficult prospect than the other one, which is a little bit more resorty. Lots of water. The bunkers tend to be deep, quite penal. More water in play for these guys. A lot of diagonal crossing creeks, and pros don't like that.
No.
Put water at the sides, no problem. Put water directly in front to carry, so you get a carry number, no problem. When that changes, the further right or left that you go, pros like that a whole lot less. So that might be a bit more in play than what we're used to seeing. Big local contingent here, which is another important thing, of course. I mean, the Philippines actually has its own tour, Jimmy, or it did up until last year. I haven't seen a 2025 schedule. Good on them for that. I imagine a lot of these players who've got invites this week would have been players who perform well there. This is hugely important for a small market like this. We talk about it with the Webex series, and we talk about it with some of the other ones. Taking this level of golf to these sorts of places really actually does something worthwhile for the game. The best thing about that is that one of the local guys, Miguel Tabuena, will actually be a really good chance. Finished 7th on the Order of Merit last year on the Asian Tour, so can play competitive at this level, and that would be a really inspirational story. And who knows, if there's ever going to be a Sevi, for want of a better term, come out of the Philippines or something like that, this is the tournament where you're first going to see that play. Mm-hmm. This is the tournament where that player might be standing now watching Miguel Tabuena and saying, that's what I want to do. That's the importance of these things, not necessarily what happens on the week. Miguel's going to have to play well. There's some good players in here. Jazz Janawatanan on, Siwan Kim, Trav Smythe, who's become a regular contender up there on the Asian Tour. A couple of other Australians. There's too many Australians to go through, but Maverick Ancliffe, Aaron Walcombe, Jed Morgan, been a bit lost the last couple of years. Finished in the top 65 on the Asian Tour last season, so gets a card for this year. Could be a good week for him, hopefully. I'm going to go with Miguel Tabuena. I like to back the story. I think that'd be a lovely story.
I love that, yeah.
If he won his local Open, and then you'll see the results of that in 10 and 15 years when kids are saying, like we used to say about Norman, we followed the shark, that's why you played. Yeah, I was there.
I followed the tab.
I followed the tab.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Hashtag the tab.
Yeah.
If I was still doing a lot of Twitter, Jimmy, it'd be hashtag the tab this week.
Matthew?
I'm going to go with Tai Chi Ko, who nearly qualified for LIV. He's been playing pretty good. He's a really good young player from Hong Kong. And he's probably pretty used to playing a lot in Asia. And Hong Kong Golf Club is a golf club with some diagonally inspired hazards.
Yeah, there's some funky holes there, aren't there, at Hong Kong. So
I'm going to go with Trav Smythe, but I think he also buried the lead a little bit there because do you know what the most regular host venue of this event is?
Yeah, I do know. It's back where Peter Thompson won, but I'll allow you to deliver it because you've done the work to look it up as well.
Whack Whack Golf and Country Club.
The Whack Whack.
WWGCC.
yeah.
Jeez.
Whack whack. One of the great venues.
What
in world
font
golf.
would you use for that? You'd have to ask Lowe.
I really
He'd
need
have
to
an
look up
idea.
that logo.
Yeah.
Make some hats.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, Angus
Oh,
Grace
yeah.
go
Just
golfing
that-
at Whack Whack.
just- Whack
Huge
Whack.
Yeah.
wholesale.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
If you're listening, Whack Whack Golfing Club,
Yeah.
we would love to do your polo shirts.
Maybe we can get in touch
Socks.
with them through the tab. We'll see if we can get in touch with the
You
tab.
have to start the tab tracker Twitter account just for this week, Jimmy, and just give the people the updates.
Now, as the appointed number one TGL tipping podcast by one bearded golfer, I'm going to just keep saying that every time to try and get it into our bio of this podcast.
If you want to get a mention on the podcast, just say something nice.
Yeah, just say something
really
nice
not that
about it,
difficult.
and we'll mention you every week. It seems we continue our weekly check-in on what's happening on the big screen of the SoFi Centre. Matt, I'd be interested in your take so far. Have you watched much TGL? Do you?
I did watch a bit of the TGL, actually. I watched more of the first one than the second one, just from a timing thing. And I listened to a very good podcast on the Fried Egg with the guy that designed the spear hole and a whole
Okay.
bunch of that different stuff.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
Chambly's
yeah.
partner.
Yeah.
It's a really good podcast. Go and listen to it. It talks about how they design all the holes and that kind of stuff. I think they're going to turn the wind up. Apparently, they have that option, which I think is really a fun idea. Because apparently, the spear hole was designed to play in a crosswind,
Okay.
which is really neat because you'd have to like hang
out
it
over
into
the water.
infinity. Yeah,
Really get funky with this.
Oh, yeah.
You really want to see it. And
Just
these
turn
guys-
the fans up. It's great.
Well, the problem is the players will start arcing up because it'll be messing with their swings and their games.
Oh, yeah,
These conditions are not normal.
I can't wait for the guys to start showing up at events and going, I'm not playing good because I've been hitting TGL shots. Yeah.
yeah. And apparently, the way it's all designed is obviously the chipping's really difficult. We've all seen the chipping really difficult, and the other thing is because you have to drop in the rough. Quite often sits down a lot, so there's a big premium actually on just good old fashioned fairways and greens.
missing the long stuff. Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's actual grass, isn't it? The rough.
Yeah, it's
the
actual
rough is
Yeah.
actual grass. Yeah, and you have to drop.
That's a
it.
horrible way for a golf ball to enter rough vertically.
Vertically.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
That's why it always looks so good at the US Open in the practice rounds every year. It's
Yeah.
easy to do that if you drop it vertically.
Yeah.
So
I reckon it'd be good for TGL just because there's no rules. Do whatever you want. They should bring back the old just over
the shoulder
Over
drop.
the shoulder.
the shoulder,
Yeah.
yeah, that's outstanding.
You get the same result anyway. So
Yeah.
They've got to do something with this hammer thing too. I don't think anybody understands.
Yeah.
that's a bit lame.
Yeah,
Like just play. They're good. These guys are good golfers. I don't think you need to add little jazzy double up.
It's a common betting game played over
It is.
there,
But you
and
know-
it's something that they play a lot. The
Yeah.
players,
I
but
tell you what you need to do. Insist that the players all put $100 of their own money in and actually play for $100. I'm not going to bother any of them. But
Yeah.
you would actually see some really good
you could see
tactical, strategic, and interesting
They
golf.
could barter on the first tee. Like, you guys happy with 10, 10, and 10? You know.
yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
why not? If you're going to do it, make it look like what golf looks like for so
Yeah,
many people
totally.
every time that they
Play for us. Yeah, sleeve of
Yeah,
of pro
play for it.
ones.
Yeah.
Give
Sleeve
the
of the
players
pro
the
shop.
freedom. All of those guys grew up as kids the same as the rest of us did, inventing games around the chipping green and going out and playing crazy. Let them do it again, you know?
Or if you're playing different games, I think change the game up every week
Yeah.
yeah.
rather than like the hammer presented by FedEx. Like that's going to get
Yeah.
a bit like.
This week it is New York Golf Club back in action against Rod Your Atlanta Drive.
Did I go with Atlanta?
Yeah,
Did I?
yeah. I think so. I'm pretty confident that was your team, wasn't it?
That's the
No, I've got
No,
actually, maybe I did.
I think you
because,
did because I'm a big Boston guy.
Yeah.
You see.
Yeah, Atlanta's the worst.
I know. Do you know why I picked it? I remember now because all of the other teams have one player that I just cannot go with. So I'll pick the team that's got all the players I just cannot go with.
That's right.
Is Lucas Glover the fourth, I think?
Yes,
Yeah.
he
They
is.
got Justin
Yeah.
Thomas, Patrick Cantlay, Billy Horschel. I like Lucas Glover.
Yep.
So they're kind of the disruptor team. They're the opposite team.
Yeah.
They've got one likable player.
Yeah.
Showed my colours there, haven't I?
So Cantlay, Horschel, Thomas for Atlanta playing Fitzpatrick, Fowler, and Cam Young on debut for New York this week. Who are we going with? I'm going with New York for whatever that means. Bounce back from. Did they lost the first one? Didn't
Oh, they got it. Yeah,
Ricky's bad.
Ricky was
Ricky's
terrible.
so bad. So I'm going to go with Atlanta, even though it's I hate doing that. I in my family footy tipping, which I always finish last in because I always tip with my heart, not
Yeah.
my head. But yeah, Ricky's he's unplayable, right?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't play all right.
No, yeah, he played okay. Yeah.
And like he looks terrible on the glasses, like.
Yes.
And I mean that lovingly as a
Yes,
guy
of
that
course.
has only worn glasses since he was 12. But like,
I like Ricky. I've always liked Ricky, but you're right. That's not working for him. It's his first real image mistake in a while. He was always going to grow up one day, and it was always going to be his problem. It's like kids in sitcoms, isn't it?
now it's just
Once the
awkward,
voice breaks, it's over.
Yeah.
awkward dad. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be going with Atlanta, I think, because Patrick Cantlay will, I don't know.
Well, that's your team.
They're my team.
You
I have
ride
to-
or die.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
If you're going to be on the team, get on the team.
That's right.
None of this getting on and off the bus.
Exactly.
So, go Atlanta.
That will just about do us for episode 96. Matthew, thank you for coming back and adding some genuine research and pleasantness that is generally missing from the chair you're sitting in.
I'm always here for pleasantness, so you're very welcome, and thank you for having me.
Yes. Rod, you're always pleasant.
That's not true, but it's very kind of you to say so.
Probably more so when Logue's not here. You can, of course, follow along with all the action mentioned here and so much more on the Golf Australia magazine website, golfaustralia.com.au. And you can get out and get a copy of the February print magazine on sale now. Mark Leishman on the cover, stories with like a Live Adelaide preview. That's what Matt Cleary's spoken to Mark Leishman primarily about. There's a bit of a feature on Matt Jones, details of the secret to Hannah Green's success.
Oh.
Yes.
Nice. I'll be interested to read that Mark Leishman piece. We haven't heard enough of Mark Leishman since he went to Live, and he's a thoughtful type, so it'll be very interesting to hear what he's got to say.
Thank you for listening to Playing from the Tips, and we'll be back next week.